I fixed my beer!
Kanpai.
What did he say? Did he say Happy New Year?
I fixed my beer.
Oh.
Fix his beer, yes.
Although, it might do it twice. I'm not sure. We'll see. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Okay, good. Okay, it seems to be fixed. All right, good. Welcome, everyone, to episode 89 of Kanpai Cast, where we're going to be talking about the sort of the way that anime has affected other cultures, and other cultures have affected anime. It's a nice cultural exchange episode. So, we got a foreign exchange student in the Japanese school, and they're telling all the other kids about what life is like in Denmark or something. I don't know.
Unfortunately, none of us is blonde or blue-eyed in that same sense.
That's true.
Well, I mean, speak for yourself.
But first, I don't think we really have much in the way of housekeeping. Zeno is at home, so his video quality and audio quality are going to be a little bit different. Not too bad though.
Yeah, it's going to be suspect. I'm not moving those pillows. I don't care. Yes, that is where I sleep. That's how small this room is. I don't care. Right. I'm also not closing the window. It is warm. Huh?
Yeah. Nor should you.
Nor should I care. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
It is warm enough that I have changed out my usual tea and alcohol for hydration.
Oh my gosh! Actual water?
That's watered down whiskey. I can tell from here. I can see it from here.
It's even got actual berries in it.
Oh.
Yep. Berry whiskey.
They were in fact frozen. I use frozen berries instead of ice cubes.
Yep.
That's smart.
That's what he was using for his ice cube whiskey.
Yeah.
Berries. Anyway.
Don't use freeze whiskey.
No, you put the ice in. Anyway.
Right.
In terms of other Kanpai Cast news...
Are you sure you want to bring up Scotch after last Friday?
Oh God.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's a secret. It's a secret, Thaylien.
Anyway, well, he can't keep a secret to save his life. Actually, no, that's you. Never mind.
It's true.
But the... news...
I dropped dark hints.
News. We're not entirely sure what's going on with regards to the memes, because Reddit seems to be slowly self-imploding, yet not at the same time. It may be a case of that we do the memes on the show, but no memes on the Twitter and Discord.
Unless we manually post them. Yeah.
That's so much effort. That is
it is. It really is.
Aside from that, I don't think there's anything else to touch upon. So, let's just.
Shall I get into
it then?
Let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's get into this.
Who's introducing? Oh, that's a freaking sight to be seen. Who's explaining this one?
I mean,
I can.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
His intro, but
no. I feel like I kind of explained it. But if you want to expand on it, go on it. Go for it.
Well, the simple idea is that everything you observe gets changed, and whatever observes you changes you. So, in the same way, anime, as a form of animation, was born from Western animation, and then has moved on to re-influence Western animation, and in fact, quite a lot of other Western culture, from the, very simple to the surprisingly complex differences that the cultures have. So the whole thing here is from the specific lens of anime, which is a microcosm in the world itself. We're going to have a little look into shows that have actually become iconic due to their influence, either from anime or into anime. So I think what we really want to do is start off with one that everybody can agree is a massive, as it's gone full circle and really kicked off this whole thing. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, this show...
a lot of the facial expressions. Yeah.
Yeah. This show blew people away for simply being a good show about kids, actual kids in a fantasy world doing fantasy things and reacting to them in realistic, for the setting ways. But at the same time, the animation still has all of the earmarks, all of the hallmarks of anime. With the simplified faces, the big eyes, the frenetic movements when they want to, and the fight choreography. Fantastic. Okay. And
good old Iroh.
the actual culture, culture of the show, basing itself in the multiple Asian
Eastern,
yes, not even just Eastern, but for example, the water tribe are 100% the Inuit, or the Inuit as they really should be if we could manage to get them that way. But these definitely non-Western traditional cultures, and it displays them vibrantly and with depth that's actually, little surprising amounts of depth for at the same time being in a fantasy setting. They've sectioned the world off based on the fantasy aspects, on this hard system of the elemental bending, and yet every one of the peoples feels distinct and feels based in the cultures they're actually coming from. And it could not have happened in quite this way if the makers weren't so heavily influenced by the styles that Eastern animation has given us.
And all the bending styles also mimic like taekwondo, or not taekwondo, but martial arts moves and like tai chi and stuff as well. It's all very rich in that sort of thing.
Yes.
And you got goofy moments like this, which also are very anime.
Yes.
I mean, really.
Just the idea of the old man Aang, or even some of the silly things, like the really silly things, like the way when they meet King Bumi in this episode, and in one of the trials, he seals up Aang's friends in rock, in crystal, and it's growing crystal. It keeps trying to take over and form them into like stalagmites where they stand, and
they
were never really in danger because it was rock
just
candy. There's no way to get away from the fact that it is a cartoon that's made based in the anime style.
But it's also got that anime energy, right? We've talked about that before. That something has to have that energy to it, that action. Well,
yes,
not exactly action, but it's weird. It's hard to explain what the anime energy is. Yeah.
Yes. So where they have, because originally this is the bit that will always come back to it. Originally, anime had to save money on its animation, so shots were often held on for a frame with the camera panning, rather than creating multiple frames to actually animate. Poses were often held on different backgrounds so that they could, use the same, essentially the same animation over different areas and flip it and reverse it and do all these things that would save them having to create extra cells of animation. And so much of the styling of the combat in anime comes from these things where I liken it back to the comic books, the really good comic books. You never saw a punch, right? You never saw a punch. You saw the wind up as the guy posed back ready for it. And then you'd always see the pose after
when they're flying away.
With the movement as the person's been hit and is reacting to it. It's the same with anime. It's that thing of you imply fast motion by the camera cutting to when it's already happened.
You look deep in thought, Xeno.
I am, and a lot of this comes down to I both agree and disagree. I feel really torn about this, and I think I finally decided how I'm torn about this. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender, I thought was fantastic. It did a really, really good job at paying tribute and homage to the anime or just Eastern cultural animation, right? So it does a really, really good job of that. But I think the problem is that a lot of that I feel is tainted by the Legend of Korra. And
but we're not talking about Korra. We're only talking about Avatar.
No, I get that, and I think there is an important distinction between the two.
Yeah,
Whereas, with what's called Last Airbender, as it should be, the name should be maintained, not the Legend of Aang. The Last Airbender, it was all about like these different sides of a story that was all over the world, like different cultural implications, and then the Fire Nation attacked. It works really, really well, but I feel the problem with what's called Legend of Korra, much like the main character, the show itself had an identity crisis. It felt very much a case of make the show because the first one did so well.
Yeah.
Do it again, but there's no more story to tell about the Last Airbender.
Yeah,
right?
so you have to move on. So that's why we want to keep this specifically for cultural purposes, keeping it into the thing, because Korra actually went on and did something completely different with how it revolts.
It felt much more Western.
Yes, and its own identity in itself, for good or for ill, it had something different to what The Last Airbender did.
But at the same time, and this is I think is the most important part of this comparison, is that Korra felt really forced, right? But Last Airbender was like, right, you've got one chance of doing this, right?
Yeah.
You've got one chance of doing this, and that was the first season, and it was such a smash success. Like, right, you can do whatever the fuck you want now, right? and they were given the liberty to animate it, and like if anything screams
anime energy,
right? It's this right here.
Yep.
And I think while it still has very strong Western roots in terms of the animation, especially the posturing, the gesticulation, so on and so forth, it is still very deep-seated, rooted in an Eastern style of animation, and I agree with you on that.
Honestly, there's so much in here. You mentioned how the two sides of everything, right? I love that, because one of the things that comes up in the show is how Aang is very connected to the spiritual side of things.
There's a duality there. There's the world and the spirit world.
So we see this little aspects. Like, you remember the conversations we had about yokai and spirits, how just the other side of the veil. They do that with the bamboo spirit.
Somewhere in here,
actually, yes, it's destroying a village and vanishing people into the bamboo. And Aang goes out there to confront it as the bridge between the spirit world and the regular world. But the spirit is so angry because the forest has been burned by the Fire Nation, and it's lashing out. So he first has to find the way to calm it by showing it what the actual cycle of nature is doing. So the burned area is growing back, and it's getting new life. And until the spirit could be reconnected with the land, it stayed angry. And
I want to say one of these background images is that creature, but I could be wrong. We'll see if it ever comes up.
It probably is. And the thing is that when it stops being angry, it goes back to a regular panda spirit. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Before that, it's like a six-legged hunting thing that's, big teeth. It might be still grinding teeth rather than hunting teeth, but it's, big teeth.
It's big and angry, yeah.
Knocks down houses because humans did this to it. Humans broke nature, and it's not seeing the differentiation between the people that care for nature and the people that hurt nature. And the second that, it's all calm again, it actually releases all the people, because even though it was angry, it didn't actually kill anyone. It's still a spirit, and it still respects life. Which, that kind of message with spirits of the world is very much at play in a lot of the Eastern religions, and the worship they want to do.
Should we move on to another?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Where do you want to go, Xeno?
Well, I wanna throw some controversy right into the fray here, because I think there was a little bit of an argument about Arcane when that would have been so good if it actually transitioned. But I mean,
Yes.
there was a little bit of an argument about Arcane being
Yes.
an anime.
Between us, yes.
You already, did you already hit it?
I did hit it, but I don't know why it's not actually transitioned. So
I'll get it. I gotcha.
yeah. But yeah, so I don't feel this is particularly anime. Like, it might lean on some energy towards it, but this feels very like, let's take every concept art possible and turn it into an animation. Right?
Okay.
Go on.
So this is why I brought this in, because the actual show doesn't seem to have any of what we would traditionally call anime, in it on screen, but the culture is there.
The culture's there?
Yeah, the cultural influence is here. The way that this story is told, the reason that people are so fascinated with it is because of the duality. Every character has a counterpart. Every setting has a counterpart. Every place has a counterpart. Every story beat has a counterpart in somebody else. You can pair up any of the characters and you'll find duality. And it's a storytelling method that we in the West don't use.
I disagree with that entirely.
Right? We don't use it in the same way. It is a awareness of plot threads that is usually only told there's a form of every Western author or writer seems to write a story that's specifically designed to have like a conflict. You have certain event, beginning, middle, end, and you have a conflict that drives it. But Eastern storytelling has often been able to tell a story without the conflict. Actually, tell an interesting story without conflict. And while this show has
it'd be
conflict,
real nice if this image changed.
It's a way of approaching the story and the way they're telling it that I've only seen before in the Eastern storytelling methods.
So hopefully the image will change in but a moment. I don't know why it's not. If it doesn't, we'll just have a quick pause. The thing is, like, you say that in Western storytelling we don't have that duality, but I disagree entirely. I think we do have that duality. It's just entirely dependent on what it is we're depicting. I think Nasuth has broken it. So
yeah, I tried hitting all and then going back to Arcane, and it just doesn't seem to want us. So let's quit. Yeah, it's 100%. Anyway.
So after we fix it, so there are plenty of stories, huh?
Correct. There are plenty of stories where
there are plenty of stories out there that have this whole duality in telling, right? But so many of them are just not put in another medium, right? I think one of the biggest, most famous ones are Game of Thrones, right? The Game of Thrones narratives, like the books to the TV show. The TV show is jumping between the characters all the time, and it does have this whole duality of, like, putting characters together and how it pivots the story and everything, or how it the screenwriting, right? That does work a lot. But I will agree with you, a lot of Western media does not do that.
I think I said when we had the quick technical difficulties that I think I've explained this badly.
Okay.
I mean, because when I say duality, I mean it in the philosophical sense of the one thing we have picked up quite a lot of from these already, which is the yin and yang duality.
Okay, fine.
They're not opposites. They're contrast. Masculine versus feminine, aggressive versus.
Okay, fine.
So these characters, every single situation is blended so that you can see the similarities, but they contrast to each other while being direct parallel in the terms of their progression.
I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, we do see that in other Western media, right? A lot of other Western media. And I do feel that this is more of something that you will see exclusively to cinema in the West, as opposed to TV shows, because I think TV shows pander to the cast more than it does to the actual quality of show.
I think the difference is that what we see in Western is narrative parallels, where they often use it for specifically hammering home moral or ironic points.
Yes.
So it contrasts the two characters. So equal progression. A show that's not on our list, but it has a really good comparison in terms of animation and things, is actually the DreamWorks reboot of She-Ra. In the last season, one of the protagonists and the lead antagonist go through equal and parallel arcs of story progression and end up actually being directly opposed to each other, but having done exactly the same things to all of the people that are related to them in the plot.
I
in the same
feel
way. That's a narrative parallel, and they come out different at the end because of the people that they actually do trust.
I feel that it's very much heavily influenced by the audience. A lot of the time, the start of a show in the West is not necessarily how the rest of the show will be. I mean, the first episode of Futurama, Bender is a lovable scamp. He's not like the heartless rogue that he is towards the end of the show, right? So it was the end of the season, the first season.
For season 1, Bender can say, "Screw you! I'll make my own with blackjack and hookers," and he will good-naturedly go and try and make his own with blackjack and hookers.
Right.
Final season, Bender will say that and actually will burn your stuff to the ground first.
Yes. While then doing his own thing and then burning his own thing down to the ground. But I feel that a lot of shows in the West are dictated by the reception of the audience. Things like Invader Zim, right? Invader Zim got cancelled because soccer mums were letting kids stay up till 11 p.m. at night. Heck, we saw the forced queer baiting in Legend of Korra, at the very end, right? Yes, that was the intent the entire time.
The thing it's a perfect example because. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
The real big thing is, yes, I know that they wanted to have Asami and Korra end up together the entire time, right? But there was no hints of that happening. It was just because it was stifled because of the audience, right? I feel that because it's a lot more competitive in Japan, right? Because studios are pit against each other, because mangaka are pit against each other, because light novel authors are pit against each other. They are aspiring to make the best shit they can, right? But I feel that with the West, and by the way, Arcane is clearly an exception from this rule because they were just like, no, we're going to do it our way, right? I feel that with the West, it's very formulaic, right? How often do we have the hero's journey story? Like, it's beat for beat the same. I literally watched a movie with my dad last night called Old Dogs. It's a Disney movie about, it's got Robin Williams, it must have been one of his last roles, and John Travolta in it. And basically, they are looking after these estranged kids. And it's like I could tell you the plot of it beat for beat before I finish the first act, right? Because it's so formulaic. There are so many movies out there like this, but that's what is the safe hedge bet. The East won't do that, right? And again, I will still state that Arcane, much like some of the other stuff we've got, is the exception that shows that it can work. Right? That they don't have to go for the formulaic crap.
Yes. Although, counterpoint, isekai exists. That's a formula that they hit almost beat for beat these days. So, okay. Let's take this. What I mean is, so the way that this
also slice of life.
The way that this progresses, the way that they take these
hey, Shonen Anime does it too.
Contrasts and parallels is so intensely clever for how they've managed to cram so much story into the few episodes they have with Arcane, is because of this storytelling method where you can actually just pick up any two characters and compare them at the right time, and they have a counterpart in that.
I think this is just down to good writing.
It is. It's exceptionally good writing and exceptionally good screenplay for the purely visual aspects of it. So, I genuinely believe that it's a cultural influence that's come in to cause this with this writing team. I think it could have ended up exactly cookie cutter like you described, had it not been for the fact that, it's a game that's set in a world that has all the other influences, and they wanted to do it differently to Western culture.
I don't think at any point in time there aren't those significant cultural impacts on the designs, but it's still heavily rooted in the West. There's still so many things that you could point, this is influenced by stuff from the East. But okay, I think we're gonna Nasuth, unless you have anything you want to add.
I've never watched Arcane. I got through 3 episodes in and gave up on it, so I have no opinion.
Outrageous. I will slap it down your throat.
Nope,
so,
never gonna happen.
Where do you want to go with this, Nasuth? If you don't have much to say about this,
oh gosh,
where do you want to go?
I think I want to go for the OG. Before Star Wars Visions, there was the Animatrix, and just look at this. This is 100% anime. This almost feels like Cyberpunk Edgerunners, but with a slightly less, realistic design. It's oh man. But there were also some weird ones. There were some CGI ones that were like, what are they doing? But in general, it was all it all had that sort of anime energy. It was really trying to go for the feel of bringing anime into the Matrix world. And I think especially, what was it called? The new Renaissance or the second Renaissance or something?
Yes.
That one is that feels like straight out of Studio Production IG.
This one, the secret place with the gravity wells and all the physics defying area.
Yeah.
That is straight up, a scene out of any superpower anime somewhere.
Yeah, I honestly, it's been a while since I've looked into it, so I don't know what studios were involved, but it wouldn't surprise me if places like Production IG and not Sunrise, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a bunch of famous studios involved in making this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, it's so good to look. I don't really have a huge amount to say about it.
But it's a great translation of the concept of the Matrix into another medium. That is the concept of the Matrix. While the movies didn't,
you've got this very Western
stellar quality.
Yeah,
the stuff that they actually spun off, the whole concept it had, was very, very good. And this show really just mashed that solidly Western movie into the stylings and culture of anime.
I mean, there were a few Eastern themes already in there, like again the duality thing, but yeah, seeing it fully translated into another medium, you know, an animated medium where they could do really crazy things with it. I think. No, go ahead.
Cool. I think if this hadn't existed, there would be no things like Star Wars Visions. There would be no Marvel What If. There would be none of these. There would have been no. I'm gonna put it out there as it's on our list is Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah, that's another good one.
They get multiple different studios to come together and do a compilation of shorts like this.
I disagree with that. I really do, because like if you watch some of the Corridor Digital animators react or things like that, you get to hear a lot of the background stories behind these things. Star Wars Visions just screams to me that this is just Disney trying to find a way into into the East that they haven't managed to properly establish yet. Because like I know you guys were saying like, oh, you know, Star Wars is so big. Well, I can't remember who said it. Someone said Star Wars was so big in Japan. Oh, it's massive. And like honestly, I went through all of Akihabara. I found one shelf with any Western stuff on it. Right? It's like
it was probably big at the time, but it didn't have the staying power that it's had in the West.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's
okay.
exactly it.
I could understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. When it was released, because of the same stuff that was involved, and it's the similar impact it had in the West because of it being so new and unique at the time, using tech that we hadn't seen before, the camera techniques, massively influential. But yeah.
My understanding of Love, Death, and Robots was basically it was a bunch of studios, a bunch of these smaller studios that they tried to take the story to Netflix and basically collaborated together to put this thing together. So like the Love, Death, and Robots would have happened, I think, regardless of the Animatrix. I think, if anything, the Animatrix would have warmed up younger generations to the idea of anthologies. Right?
Yeah.
Just look at how many, there aren't many episodic shows to begin with, right? Especially with the popularization of making shows overly dramatic in the West. Right?
It's gotten more popular to do episodic serialized content, but it's never been as popular here as it was in the East.
I say it's less popular, right?
Because
if you think about it, it used to be you'd have Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Simpsons.
You're talking about
shows.
You're talking about episodic, as in each episode is a self-contained story, rather than a full. Okay, I thought you were talking about like an actual serialized, like the whole season is a story or whatever. Sorry.
No. I'm saying it's become more that now.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
There are still shows out there that are always going to be moneymakers, like The Simpsons. I still can't believe The Simpsons is still running. And that is still episodic content. It always goes back to the status quo, right? And I love Futurama's piss take on that, right? but there have become there's this huge push since the I'm not going to say it was like a huge popularization by Game of Thrones to have this long.
Oh no, it was before that, but
it existed. Don't get me wrong, it definitely existed before that. NCIS even had it, right? Even though they had episodic content, it was still had this long overarching meta plot.
Yeah,
and that was way before Game of Thrones. But Game of Thrones,
you also had stuff like Fringe and oh god, what's some of the other ones around that era? But that was when it was sort of warming up. I think you're right. The Game of Thrones was the turning point.
Yeah, it massively popularized it, so that it was a case of, everything has to be huge, drawn-out narratives, and it was like, well, where's all the episodic stuff gone? Right? There's so little. Look at cartoons. Look at Owl House. Look at Adventure Time. Look at, again, that stuff still has these huge overarching narratives. One of the few semi-remaining shows that have episodic content plus an overarching narrative is Rick and Morty, right? But anyway, I don't know if you guys want to talk any more about Love, Death and Robots.
We were on Animatrix.
It's fine to kind of cross over.
Star Wars Visions as well.
Yeah,
Star Wars Visions. I want to talk about heavily.
Shall we dive into that?
Let's do it. Right, let's jump into it. Right. So there are parts of Star Wars Visions that I really liked. I think it was The Village Bride was my favorite story, even though it was done by the studio Science Saru, which, I'm not a huge fan of Science Saru, but still, I thought it was one of the much better narratives in the whole thing. I think it was really cool that with Star Wars Visions, they gave very finite restrictions on these are the limiting factors when it comes to the narrative. So we've got kyber crystals, we've got a Jedi, we've got Sith, and I think that was it, right? That
lightsabers,
lightsabers, kyber crystals, same thing.
Yeah,
so it's again, it was they were very loose with what they could and couldn't do, and what they were able to produce was incredible, right?
Even this one, even though Toby wasn't great narratively, it was still amazing to look at. Yeah.
You could definitely see this. This is the origin that they were taking. It was the whole Astro Boy thing, right? It was an incredible feat to basically take the restrictions off the license and say, right, here's some minimal requirements. Do what you will with it, right? And it felt like the studios had gone away and they properly learned what it meant to have these different narratives and things, right? What were the ideologies behind the Jedi, right? Granted, there was what was it? Tatooine
the Village Elder?
Rhapsody?
Oh,
no.
I think Tatooine. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah,
that was the music one.
Tatooine Rhapsody.
That was painful.
Yeah,
I can't remember what this one was called. This
is the Village Elder.
Sith. Is this the one? Is this the one with the bad Sith in it?
Yes, the Elder. Yeah. So
yes, the Elder. Yeah.
With the old guy who was a Sith. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the really boring Jedi who was monotone the entire time.
God. Dave
And the thing is, we've seen him in other stuff, and he's amazing. But in this one, he's like,
great.
Oh no, there's a Sith out there. Yeah,
I really like
the
Jedi
well. Was really good.
Yeah.
As a concept.
There was so much fun to play around with this, and even as an anthology, it just worked. But this was a production that truly understood what it was to be anime, right? Again, Cyberpunk Edgerunner.
Hell, they had the twins in this one. You know, the
Oh,
in this
that
season of it.
yeah.
Twins.
Yeah,
That's the one. Where they slice the Star
being
Destroyer in half.
animated to the fucking max. It was just insane.
It was definitely
you
Trigger.
Can't get.
Right.
Yes, it was definitely Trigger.
I
You know,
feel
season
that.
2's out.
Is it actually out?
I am looking at it right now.
Okay.
Wow.
But I mean, to me, like this was like a very much a leap of faith of bringing an Eastern audience to what was effectively inspired heavily by Eastern cinema, right? And I love it for that. It's basically kind of coming home to be, well, what can you do with it now? And I don't know how well it did in the East. I really have no idea, right? I don't know if this was really marketed for the East or whether or not it was marketed for the West, right? You know, who was the target audience, right?
China.
But, huh?
China.
Right? But
Not
I think
really.
it was absolutely, like, you know, I think even though there's plenty of stories that I didn't like, I think the motivation behind doing it was brilliant, right? I honestly, I am really not looking forward to season 2, right? It
Yeah,
feels...
because it's worldwide studios rather than just Japanese studios.
There is that.
Right. I mean, even if it was China studios, Korean studios, what have you, right? But I'm concerned heavily that, like, the restrictions have just been cranked up to 11, and it's no longer the whole, oh, well, just do with it as you will. You know, make an anime of Star Wars. I think it's just a case of, no, it's got to be like this. Oh, you got to get approval to do this, and you got to, you know. I mean, look at the Mandalorian season 3. That was just like, what is this even? This isn't even the Mandalorian anymore. It's the Mandalorians, where plural is optional apparently. You know, so I feel that this started with good intentions.
Hot take. I liked that one.
Huh?
Hot take. I liked season 3.
Still haven't watched it.
Anyway, I feel that it's more a case of, like, I don't think Disney should just try and grab anything, because, like, look at Pokemon. Look how Pokemon can do no wrong by releasing an absolute trash game, right? That's buggy up to the wazoo, and, like, you know, we really need to start holding production companies accountable for what the hell they're doing, and we do that by our wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
games.
my hot take on Star Wars Visions.
Still, yeah, no, Star Wars Visions. I loved some of it, didn't like others, but you can't, as you said, you absolutely can't deny that what they did was they took Star Wars and made an anime of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is incredible cross-cultural influence.
Yeah.
So
it really is a mirror to the Animatrix, where they both took, you know, this big, massive, popular thing, and were like, now do an anime. Just go crazy. Just do what you want.
Yep.
And yeah. I think all they really had for Animatrix was there's an oracle, there was a rebellion with the robots, and people can jack into the net to the net, and that was basically it. And they just went crazy.
Mm-hmm. They did. So where do we go from here? Shall we go on to something that's more Western but definitely inspired by East, or shall we go for something that's Eastern but definitely inspired by West?
I would say the latter. I'm looking at Panty and Stockings with Garterbelt.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this is one of the very unsuccessful Gainax shows in Japan. They
wasn't it
inspired
by South Park?
No, this was inspired by Powerpuff Girls and things like that. This was more Cartoon Network side of things.
Yeah, they wanted to do, adult humor. Cartoon Network.
Powerpuff Girls meets South Park, yeah.
And I feel that though the animation was not to my liking either, I wasn't a huge fan of it. The comedy was really there, and I'm pretty sure that the only reason why this didn't get a season 2 was because of how it was so poorly received in Japan, right? There was an era where people thought that Gainax had ceased to exist, and this was one of the last shows that people like this was not long
the nail in the
before,
coffin, so to speak. Yeah,
this was not long before Trigger emerged. Trying to think, when did oh gosh, what's the name of this? Kill la Kill come out to the internet. As Nasuth is trying to look it up real quick.
2013.
2013. Right. And when was Panty and Stockings? I mean, you could just look at the thing it says on the... Okay.
Oh, on this thing?
Yeah, I can't read it though, because
neither can I.
Was that 2010?
2010.
Pretty sure
yeah.
Yeah. So like this is right before the
split,
mass migration from.
See, I wanted to point out these shots like this.
Yeah.
Where these are the shots
where it goes full anime.
For the fact that it was majority like this. Those shots are what kept most of the fanboys, I would say.
I agree.
Especially in the West. The overall show might have not had a great reception over in the East, but it was that cartoony style where suddenly it would evolve into full-on fan service with the anime style that got so many people watching it in the first place and kept them watching it to see when the next time they would do something like that was.
Well, I think one of the really interesting things about the show, there are some shows out there like Crayon Drawn Shin-chan, right? That is a very lazily drawn,
very stylized, series.
Yeah, but it works, right? People really like the one version of One Punch Man, the original author's work to it. But absolutely. I feel with this, maybe it was just a case of like, no, this resembles the West too much. We don't like it. It's really hard to tell, really.
If it was less Cartoon Network and slightly more sloppily drawn anime, then there might have been more sway in that, you think?
Yeah, I think so. But again, likewise, it could just be the simple fact that, it wasn't targeted well for the audience, because like the humor is very adult, right? At no point in time is it like suitable for kids, because effectively you got these two fallen angels that are lust and gluttony and things like this. I'm pretty sure it's gluttony. So where do you?
And they're not afraid to just curse up a storm, Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and of course the weapons. Let's be honest, but they literally were the panty and the stocking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I think if you're sort of done with that one, I think I'd like to briefly dovetail onto it with Powerpuff Girls Z, if that's all right.
Yeah,
I've never actually watched it now, so I'll admit that straight off. But this is a case of. Okay, it's really hard to find images for this one, by the way. This is another one where Powerpuff Girls was inspired by super deformed anime, right? And then...
Yeah,
definitely chibi style.
Yeah. And then it came back to Japan to be an actual magical girl anime. And, I mean, you could tell they were trying to still sort of mimic some of the Western assets, but it's 100%. Just look at that. It's 100% anime.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting case of something where it's crossed over twice and become this strange
Definitely.
beast. But it also, as far as I understand, it also didn't do very well because it only had like one season. Maybe it's a case of it was too Western again. I don't know.
So I think it was the curse of the Cartoon Networkifying.
Yeah.
Because look, the jokes in Powerpuff Girls are funny from a certain point of view. You know, they have a clown that gets depressed and so goes black and white instead of rainbow, and then
it's a literal devil, but he's only obsessed with like fashion.
But they bring him back by playing an actual song on stage to about love and how you got to let it into your heart, and it slowly returns their world to color and brings back Rainbow the Clown. But because he's now vulnerable, they still beat the shit out of him. And that's how the show ends. It's just them like beating the shit out of him and dragging him off to prison because he did commit the crimes. And that kind of humor isn't always funny to a lot of people.
It doesn't translate well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sort of like when you're watching an anime and they tell a joke that makes a lot of sense in context in Japan, but in America it's like, why is this funny? Well, you see, in Japan it rhymes, it becomes a pun, but in America it just doesn't.
Pun.
Yeah,
a poorly localized pun. That's the problem with them. So,
I mean, it wasn't massively hated upon. I'm just looking at the score now. It got like 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
It was
still pretty
52
mid though.
Episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know, because like I don't know if it's just the images that you were able to get or what, but I gotta say the animation does not look.
Yeah, this one looks a little
promo material.
Really?
The animation looks a lot rougher than the promo material.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's half of what I was expecting. So I kind of want to contrast this one as well. So we've gone from these ones that have swapped back and forth, the ones that are heavily influenced. I'd like to talk about Otaku Elf because of it being a show that specifically
is
made
about culture.
to share the culture. Okay, it is a show about how culture has changed over time, specifically through the eyes of somebody who's seen it all happen. So it's a bit of fantasy. It's a bit of it's mostly slice of life, but the whole point of it is to express these the ways that culture has affected us, and how everything has affected itself over time. One of the episodes is specifically devoted to how, in the past, back in Tokugawa's time, sorry if you heard the engine, the practice of storing ice in caves and bringing it over in the summer so that they could cool down fruit and water and touch it to keep cool was a miracle. It's miracle ice. But they liken that nowadays to the way you can order food off of Amazon. You can get delivery straight to your door through online services, so you never technically have to leave your house. And it's the same process, so the rich, the people with money, can bring goods to them, without having to go out and actually go and find them, go and buy them. And this cross-pollination of concepts back and forth. So, as a character, our elf is heavily into collectibles. So, and it doesn't seem to matter really what the collectibles strictly are. They just have to be fascinating to her. So they make a big thing out of the gacha stuff that you can order. for making frog tanks. But there's also Gun Plus stuff with a knockoff mecha thing that she does. Then there's glass bottles that are interestingly shaped. She has a collection of those because glass was something that was rare in the time she arrived, but then became more and more prevalent, and then more and more commercial.
They had much more like porcelain and stuff, didn't they, back in the day?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You compare. One of the ones that fascinated me was that when they were talking about the collectibles, was that the very first collectible giveaway stuff was actually done by doctors over in Japan. So they used to show that you'd visited their doctor's shop, because it wasn't really a apothecary yet or anything else. They would give you a woodcut, a hand-carved wooden scene to show that you'd been to that particular doctor. And soon other doctors picked up on it and made their own ones to show that people had been to there. So it became also a status symbol to have gone to certain ones, or to have collected more than somebody else by going to different places because you could afford their services. And it was one of the very earliest cases of go to a service, get given a free gift. And to the extent that, just to tie this in, I was playing through Ghostwire Tokyo a while back when it became one of the games included with the Xbox membership.
Yeah,
the Game Pass, yeah. And they noted that one of the things you find in the game is a magazine that came with a free handbag. And quite arguably, the handbag was worth more than the magazine by several times over.
But the magazine's a collectible.
But the magazine was what you had to buy to get the handbag, and that's what made it collectible, because it was rare that they gave away something so valuable with a simple magazine. So the same can be said over here. You'll go into a newsagent or anywhere that's actually still sells physical magazines, and there will be a shelf full where the magazines will have something extra, whether that's toys for the kids or collectible dinosaur skeletons for the adults that want to spend huge amounts of money for no reason. There'll be magazines with special wrappers with vouchers in them. It's that same thing has come about through the ideas that existed hundreds of years ago.
You'll go to McDonald's to order those fries just to get a chance to win at Monopoly, because you peel off a little Monopoly sticker on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
But even more so, free meal with a free toy with a Happy Meal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To bring in people. So I love the fact that this show is sharing the culture and the roots of the things it's doing. Every time there's something that seems to be a little bit like, oh, but why? They actually do go into it. They do take the time to expand on the culture that gave birth to this, and even poke fun at it. I mean, I've mentioned that in the early episodes, there's this part where she, for tradition's sake, introduces her new shrine maiden to the town by walking through and holding a ritual meal.
Yeah.
And it's really just because a few, 50 odd, 60 odd years ago, she threw a tantrum and wanted to eat ramen at midnight on New Year's. So her shrine maiden walked her through the town to go to a particular corner store and buy some soba ramen.
I mean, I think one thing that it is quite a cultural impact, especially to go the other way, is the huge lifestyle changes. Like, again, when I visited Japan, a lot of the exterior doors were our typical hinge doors, right? And several of the places did have sliding doors, but not like a massive amount. Trying to remember, Tokyo was all hinge doors. There's no sliding doors there at all. I don't think.
Because it's just less practical, even though it's cool, right? The same way with
I think
with toilets. They've adopted Western toilets because they're just more practical.
And that's the big thing that I was going to say is like, you know, the whole adoption of the toilets. It's become like, well, we don't want to squat. It's problematic, and yeah, although biologically it is better for the human body to squat to poop, it's not particularly comfortable. It's not, you know.
Exactly.
What if you have bad balance, you know?
And it's also not normal for for us to get squidded with water afterwards, but you know, the Japanese did put that function into their toilets.
Oh,
as well.
no.
Look, bidets are great, all right?
Guys. There is nothing better than going to the toilet and the toilet seat is heated.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it is. Wow.
When it's private, if it's a public toilet that is heated, I just think, somebody's been
Nope,
there.
all of them. Right, okay, yeah, I get that. But like all the toilets in Japan were heated, and so yeah. Anyway. But again, like I think I get where you're coming from, and I kind of wish that we'd actually adopt more of their cultural pride, I suppose, in their nation, because like it's so clean over there. Over here, it's like, my God, what the hell happened to the pavement? You know, this is a crime scene or something. But yeah, it's like it's incredible. But I feel that I'm very interested. Like, what direction did things like collectibles really go? Did it start from the west to travel east, or east to travel west? Or was it coincidentally? Sure. Did it just coincidentally start?
Yeah,
in
it
the
could just
place?
be. Oh, what is that called? There's a term for that where yes, yeah, that one.
Yeah, parallel evolution, where two different, distinctly separate cultures come up with the same thing for for different reasons, but it ends up being the same thing.
Yeah. So like, and I find it really interesting. So yes, Japan does have a lot of figures and stuff that are like, you know, cheap tat, but you know, I think the quality of some of their other products are just incredible. Like it's insane how, you know, you can buy a Funko Pop for about I don't know how much you can buy them for now. I would say 10 quid, but you know, I can buy an Android for fucking 30 quid, and the quality difference is
amazing. Yeah,
monumental.
You can't even pose a Funko Pop, can you?
No, and they all have the same
massive head
looking faces.
Yeah,
you know,
looking at me with the dead eyes.
You know.
Meanwhile, Nendroids can pose, and oftentimes they have like replaceable faces if the character has more than one expression. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
some of them even come with those little stands that have the transparent thing to make it look like they're floating.
Yeah. So there's so much more to them and things like this, and I just feel like the quality of Japanese products, like, it depends on where you get them from. Don't get me wrong, because like, you know, even Bandai,
you can find cheap stuff there too. Yeah,
exactly, right. But again, things like Gundam model kits, right? You know, like the Gundam X here that I bought, like if I was to buy in the UK, it would cost me like 50 quid, right? I bought it for like 15, right? It's just amazing.
You look at the equivalent to that kind of thing. If you go into a model shop now, in terms of detail and scale, you'd be looking at something like out of the Warhammer universe, and those are 3 times that.
Insanely expensive. One of the most crazed things, like, you know, I think a lot of companies now are really suffering because what's it called, like 3D printers, right?
Yes.
I think in Japan there's like a real competitive market for like the quality of the product. But like you look at the West, and it's just like, well, like how much of a markup does this have for being a quality product? And it's absolutely insane, right? £30 for like 3 little pieces of plastic that you have to put together and paint yourself, right?
Because they got to make all the money.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's this general global attitude of I have to make all the money, not I have to make a good quality product to make the money. I love the contrast between Castlevania and Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls Z.
It's like, wow, like that doesn't scream the difference. But yeah, and that's basically the break of the whole thing, right? I kind of want to shift gears entirely at this point.
Okay.
And I kind of want to talk about Vox Machina, right? I did hit the button. I don't think it's working again, I think. Yeah. So the great thing about the Legend of Vox Machina is that it's really heavily a Western-inspired show, right? It's
from
like
the ground up. It's inspired by the Dungeons and Dragons, a role-playing group that plays Dungeons and Dragons and then streams and puts their episodes out on
with very traditional like race archetypes and stuff. You've got your halfling and your
But here's the big thing, right? So they took this heavily Western originating narrative and then thought to themselves, how could we do an epic job of making this an entertaining show? And they decided to take it like, what animation style would fit this well, and they went for this, very anime inspired direction.
Yes. If you look at this,
works.
if you didn't ever hear of Legend of Vox Machina, you'd be wondering what anime this was. You would think, okay, is it one made in America?
Yes,
but it'd still be wondering. You would think that is
this is something made for Cartoon Network. Yeah,
maybe.
To be fair, like this still screams
but it's
West,
something made for Cartoon Network that's trying to be anime. I would definitely
Yeah. It's like the DreamWorks She-Ra or the recent attempt at making the end of He-Man.
Yeah.
God, I wish we put Thundercats in here. I really wish.
Yeah. I was also thinking actually Berserk, because Berserk has a lot of Western inspiration in it, but then it goes full anime at the end.
Yeah. And I think, it was interesting because I was having a conversation with my dad earlier, and he was saying that the reason why he's not a huge fan into like animated stuff is because it's not grounded in reality, right?
Yeah.
I kind of get that, but the problem is when you actually have these shows that are trying to be realistic, right? And realistically, it doesn't look right. There's I know that there's a Disney live-action adaptation of Pinocchio where Tom Hanks is playing. What's the name?
Really, any of the Disney live action quote unquote adaptations end up like that.
No, not all of them, right? Like, especially not Maleficent. The first Maleficent was done flawlessly. It really, really was, because they took the time to make it, and they did it the right way. But the problem is, because of how successful Maleficent was, they thought that they could...
Let's just do that to Lion King. Let's do that to Aladdin. Let's do that to
Beauty
everything.
Beast.
Yeah. And just ruin it. Just ruin it.
They do, right? And I think...
God, the trouble I almost got into with Mulan from the actual people of that culture was worrying.
Well, one of the biggest things with Pinocchio, and this is really showing like they don't give a fuck, is what is the name of the father figure that puts
Geppetto?
Pinocchio together? Geppetto, thank you. I kept on thinking Giuseppe.
Giuseppe.
Geppetto. Anyway, Geppetto is in a boat with Pinocchio as they're escaping the what's called the whale and everything, and they end up on this beach, right? Where Geppetto falls. I nearly said Giuseppe. Geppetto falls out of the boat, and he is bone dry, right? He lands in the water, right? And none of the water sticks to him, right? Because
he's not really in water. Yeah,
it's CG water. And this is what a lot of is happening these days, where a lot of special effects are being cheap. I mean, the one of the biggest ones to really shit on is Black Widow, the Black Widow movie, right? There are so many elements to that where it's just like, this looks horribly green screen. This looks like someone's actually on a wire being yanked, right? This doesn't look realistic, right? And I think that is somewhere that animation would cost hell of a lot less and look hell of a lot better, because
it doesnn't jar you. It's already it fits in this style. Whereas if you're trying to be real, your brain goes, wait, that's not right. That doesn't seem, that wouldn't be happen. You know,
as much as there is some thing with the latest one, Avatar, as in the blue aliens one, does it the best, because they take the time to blend the CG with live action in ways that make it a lot more believable.
Again, I'll try to find the reference to this, which is again, another corridor of digital thing where they actually get someone from Weta, I think it was Weta, or was it ILM, to go through some of the stuff, and how they've made it so that they do blend in practical acting with special effects. And the thing is that they look for the key places where it's super important, and the super important parts is how water interacts with anything, right? And it's like, it's super important for this to be right and everything. But like but the thing is, there's so much out there that's getting like mass produced in terms of like live action and stuff.
We have a direct anime comparison anyway, in terms of the Hollywood movie thing.
Yeah.
And Black Widow leads almost directly into it.
One Piece?
Ghost in the Shell.
Oh god, yeah. We do actually have that in the system. Let me see if I can...
The live action Ghost in the Shell missed so many points about Ghost in the Shell itself.
Oh no, it's not. It's not.
No.
Don't worry,
we got rid of it.
It's live action. It's excluded from the list. But yeah, no. Again, you're right. You know, it's.
I
assume we don't have Battle Angel either.
No, like anything that's live
Battle
action.
Angel Alita. Actually, I actually did like
it.
Battle Angel Alita because
Battle Angel.
Yeah, yes, they swapped it around because he doesn't do movies that start with anything other than an A or a T.
Who?
Del Toro?
Well, the director.
Was it Del Toro?
No, right. So first off, he's thinking James Cameron. And second,
James Cameron.
But Robert Rodriguez directed.
James Cameron was the guy that was consulted for it.
No, he bought the rights to it way back when.
But that's why they switched it specifically, because James Cameron doesn't bring out any movies that don't start with an A or a T.
Ah, here it is. Is Terrible Ghost in the Shell.
Oh.
But will it actually trigger on my end?
Don't know. It's under 2017 spring.
Oh, okay.
Decade. 2010s.
There we are.
Crikey.
No, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It's been excluded from the set.
So,
as it should be.
So that one, you've got that direct comparison where they've had a movie or a series that is an anime in general that is so popular overall that they tried to make a Hollywood movie out of it.
Yeah.
And they didn't do very well, but at the same time,
it was trash.
That's a huge influence. That's a huge thing. Getting those, baby steps.
The fact that it was popular enough that they would even attempt it.
We went through a lot of really bad superhero movies. before we got to ones that actually were true to the comics.
And then they got bad again.
They got bad again because they got oversaturated, and they kind of tried to make them all the same. But the first wave of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even with Thor in there being the weakest one of the lot, they did so well.
Yeah.
And that's off the back of the original the Daredevil and Elektra, or the original Green Lantern, or all of those ones that were just made in Germany in a tax haven, so that they could just capitalize on the name. They didn't care about the actual about the comic. They just wanted to make something for the fans to
that Superman movie did real well. That Batman movie did real well. What can we do?
Yeah.
Well, we can get some trash.
Yep.
But
Well,
I think what you're saying, what you're trying to say is that stuff like Vox Machina and Edgerunners and Castlevania, they don't just go for that cheapness. They're actually trying to put care and effort and love into it.
That's where we were going to go with the last point. Was from that was Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Castlevania as two Netflix bought shows that go off of Western themes with the Cyberpunk and with the Castlevania story.
Well,
obviously Castlevania is heavily based on the
game, the Japanese
on the
game.
Dracula lore. It's on the Japanese game.
Yes,
It's also on Dracula lore with the Belmonts and everything. Even the game was so heavily based on that idea that you can't. It is very hard to say where the influence is stronger, west or east. There,
I think.
But
I also feel.
Then,
so I'm not quite sure how Netflix's involvement in Edgerunner was, because
how deep?
I know
Did they just fund it, or did they actually?
Well,
dictate?
The thing is, they didn't fund it because it was CD Projekt Red that funded it.
Oh.
Right? So it was a case of like, did Netflix just
probably guessing that they did a bid for the rights for
distribution,
streaming distribution, and so, Netflix money was really big at the time.
So that again, that makes sense and things, but I feel that it's a case of that I will always love the story, and I think this is like, shut up, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Where CD Projekt Red didn't want Rebecca to exist in Cyberpunk Edgerunners because it's like, we don't have lolly characters in the game. It's like, no, shut up, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know what the hell we're doing. Leave it to us.
That was it. And God, people love that character.
Yeah. And it's just like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
It's Trigger. You can't really go wrong with Trigger.
I think it's so interesting how often people think
Star Wars Visions.
Okay.
I think
it's fair enough.
I think it's really telling how many shows, or just anything, like, you'll experience this in your own job, where higher ups will like, oh, we need to do this. I'm like, do we?
Yeah.
So what's the motivation behind doing this? It's, oh, you gotta do X, Y, or Z. Like, I've
I heard from one of my buddies at the business lunch that they're doing this in their company. I want to do it too.
Well,
okay, but have you thought about it? No.
I'll always argue this when, I'm pretty sure I told you the story of how I used to work for this one company. This our client turned around and said, "Oh, we want a label on this graph that said, 'Don't trust this graph; it's useless.'" And I was like, "Why?" But the thing is, the second you do that, the second you do that, it undermines the whole point of the system, because one damaging piece of thing is like, well, people will mentally put it in other places, and it was a case of like, they didn't bring us the problem, they brought what they thought was the best solution. Instead of saying like, right, we've got someone here that is a statistician, right, who worked at a university for 6 years, right, we're doing stuff with graphs, why don't we ask him what would he do, right? And they came up with this solution. So I turned to them, I said, like, give me an hour, and I went away and I came back, and like, it was as simple as just drawing a second line, and they were like, oh my god, this is brilliant. And like, you have to have faith in the people that do the work, right?
Exactly. We've done that in my job a lot in the last couple of years, where coming down and actually talking to the people that do the work in the factory has resulted in more streamlining than all of the theorizing that we did up in the main office. You know, I hard-coded a bunch of simple measurements, you know, simple rules for laying out pages on paper. It seems like it should be easy, but it's really not when you consider printing and all the details that have to go into that. But that means that now we can use any folding machine we happen to get now or in the future to do the jobs that we need to do and fold them up and have them ready for the, no matter what their limitations are. We can now do that. And you have to talk to the
and
people
you wouldn't have known that
machines.
You wouldn't have known to do that without talking to these people. Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very simple. You have to.
There's a reason you've hired this skilled labor to do these jobs. Maybe trust them or listen to them. You know.
This is actually like, this is making me like pivot here, right? A part of me is actually tempted to say, like, we would probably see more Arcanes. We'd see more Cyberpunk Edgerunners. We'd see more The Legend of Vox Machina if we let the people that have the driving passion to make the decisions, right?
Oh yeah. It used to be in Hollywood that you would produce a trash movie, right? But that movie would get you money, and then you'd make the movie that you want to make, the actual good movie. And that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. It's all just trash movies to get money, and no actual passion projects.
I will, just as turn that perspective a little. Remember the famous words of Hayao Miyazaki when he said anime was a mistake. Because you've got to consider that, yes, letting the people that have the passion for something will produce something that is a movie or a show that is passionate about the topic. The problem that's happened with anime over time is that the people that grew up with it are now wanting to be passionate about and make the shows that they want to make. But the problem is that many of them just want to see more waifus.
Or My Hero Academia.
More advanced ways to get the right angles in the camera.
But that's going to happen regardless. Like, you know, how many people, like, let's just classify them as they are, like, you know, what we are, degenerates. How many degenerates out there, you know, they start playing things like, I literally saw Giguk do this, like, play Honkai Star Rail, and the first thing he fucking does is try to look up someone's skirt, right? And, you know, and it's just like, you know, that's gonna happen. Like, even if you are a creator or you are a engager, right? You know, someone that engages with the content, you're going to try and do this stuff, right?
We're all chimpanzees in the end.
There's a brilliant Avenue Q song, "The Internet Was Made for Porn," right? And it's so damn true, right? Everything, you know, why did VHS win over Betamax?
It's the same reason.
Backed VHS.
I believe it's the same reason Blu-ray won over HD DVD. Because the porn industry chose Blu-ray. Yeah.
You know, there's like, you know, there's so many different things. There's so many, and it's like, and yeah, it's absolutely crazy how much.
Also, Blu-ray sounded cooler.
Blu-ray sounded cooler.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Sony owned the rights to Blu-rays, and Microsoft, I think, owned the rights to HD DVDs.
Yeah, something like that.
And like, I think Microsoft were asking like way too much money to produce HD DVDs.
Probably, yeah, sounds about right.
There was that driving force as well. So that's why the porn industry went with Sony's, because Sony had a bigger area to go to. Still, yeah.
I think though we may have derailed a bit, I think we're kind of done. Are we done?
Do we want to hit Teen Titans or anything?
Teen Titans would be a good high note to go out on, but at the same time, it's got all the same things that Avatar did,
that we've talked about.
Airbender, because it took the stylings, but it then took these characters and was faithful to the core material. It told actual stories within the thing. It was part episodic. It had parts overarching plot, and it respected the characters that it brought on.
Yeah.
In the same way.
Stupid thing is, I actually tried to rewatch Teen Titans. Was it 2003? I tried to rewatch this one. I couldn't even fucking stomach the first 5 minutes. I'm like, how did I watch this as a kid?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But at least it's not Teen Titans Go.
DC, the movies, DC animated movies are fantastic.
Yeah, that's true.
So is Justice League. Justice League is really good.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all in general.
But I'm talking about the series.
After the whole cartoon,
Anyway.
cartoon classics, the DC animated movies, it really did. They really have.
They did. I actually just recently watched Teen Titans versus Justice League, and it was really good.
Yes,
it's really good
indeed.
Anyway,
right, let's round off. Okay.
Okay.
I should have brought up this. Right. So we're doing the supporter questions.
Yes, sir.
We're doing the supporter questions.
Where we come in from all questions that come from Xenog's Patreon.
Yeah, if you want to ask us questions, you too can join for as little as $1.
Mm-hmm.
And it all helps Nasuth's wallet. Right, so moving on to Zrugel asks, what was your favorite snack? Wait, really? We have no statement before?
No.
No.
Okay,
Isn't that fun? Zrugel, you
asks,
absolute mad lad.
Yeah, what was your favorite snack while you were in Japan?
Pocky. Definitely Pocky, right? Yeah.
No. What was my favorite snack while I was in Japan? I can't.
Seaweed and fish. Seaweed and dried fish.
I was just drinking a hell of a lot. I absolutely loved melon Fanta. Melon Fanta was incredible. Yeah.
I think that counts.
Isn't it just? Yeah, see, you can't get it here.
You
can
can
get it
in absolutely tiny cans.
Yes,
right?
you've got to get it imported. So,
what's even the point?
Upsetting.
Yeah. What did you think of Chaika, the Coffin Princess? I have seen it all. I really enjoyed it, except for they clearly rushed the end. They clearly had enough there for probably another half season or a movie.
But they've got to fit this 12-episode schedule. BS.
Yeah, they just massively rushed the end, and it had so much potential. I really enjoyed it. Nasuth got it. Sorry, the Golden Age. What do you think of the idea that
Come Sister Todd, come sweet death?
It goes with everything. What is Come Sister Todd?
It's the music that plays in the end of Evangelion, the movie. It all comes tumbling down. You know that one. When Giant Ray is. Oh, okay.
I don't believe it goes with everything. I'll find a way that it doesn't. Anyway, have you heard Dio singing "Come Sister Todd"? No.
Oh, you got to. It's right. Crazy.
What's your favorite DA AI cover, and why is it Eminem's "Without Me"? Oh God. I don't know if it was the "Without Me," but it was
Rap God. Could have been Rap God.
Maybe, but it's so funny. Like, it's just so amazing to hear. Like, I've seen so many of them. I just kind of want them to continue. Like, this is a meme that just needs to flourish. Right. Carbon Knight asks, what anime had the best looking / most interesting food that made you want to try it for yourself?
Well, I haven't watched Food Wars, but I have seen a lot of the food from it, and it looks really good.
Yeah, it is. But for some reason, I keep coming back to Spirited Away.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the food there, I couldn't quite identify, but the way they ate it with such gusto, and it was the absolute desire for them to stuff it down their face. I want food that makes me do that. I just absolutely enjoy myself that much gorging on it. I might feel horribly ill afterwards, but you know.
I don't think I have a proper answer for this. I genuinely don't.
Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. You want Toru's tail?
Sure, why not? There you go.
I was going to say Castle in the Sky, you want egg on bread.
So what?
Castle in the Sky, Laputa.
Yeah.
As he starts his morning, he just slice of bread with a fried egg on top.
It's been
that is a
years
good
since
breakfast.
I watched Laputa. I can't remember it. The other one was the House Moving Castle breakfast, which is like bacon you can slap someone in the face with.
Yes, and the fact that he can crack eggs by hitting them on a flat surface and then crack them one-handed.
Yeah.
Anyway. I need eggs like that.
Bay of the Kingdom asks, if we were to get a real Batman anime, not the Batman Ninja movie, that was a clown car of weird, which studio would you want to animate it?
I don't think anyone like Trigger would be good.
Project IG.
Production IG would probably be pretty good.
Safe
Or alternatively, Cloverworks. Kyoto Animation. There you go.
Oh.
I was actually thinking either Mappa or Madhouse.
And then as a contrast, if we were to get a Guardians of the Galaxy anime, which studio would work? Yeah, I was actually
Trigger.
I was just gonna say Trigger. Trigger or Mappa.
Trigger or Gainax or
Can you
Mappa.
imagine a Star-Lord with a gigantic star sword?
Yeah, clearly.
Slice nowhere in half.
Right, so let's move on to the comments from last week's episode. So first from the news, Strumbus Shell says, why England hot, but not have aircon?
I have the answer for that. The actual official answer is the fact that apart from the last 3 years, the average temperature of England has not broken 32 degrees or around 80 to 90 Fahrenheit. We've not gotten hotter than that overall, and the hottest times have still barely broken 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
So we do not have to build for it. It's not in our building code. It's not something that we sell. So
even a lot of their windows
it's
open.
Global warming doing that.
Even a lot of your windows like open sideways, so you can't even get traditional window units.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll be interested in seeing the next Miyazaki movie. Without advertising, it could turn into a secret gem or just an unknown. I think they're relying heavily on word of mouth.
Word of mouth, yeah. So. The fact that they're not advertising it is itself advertising.
Yeah. Zerugel says, my eyes, joking, I wouldn't have said anything, if Nasuth didn't mention it.
That's when
that was the fact that was the no
yeah. No, dark mode wasn't working.
Yes.
Oh, that
Yes.
okay. When I think of bad advertising, I think of the movie Downsizing. I won't bother explaining, but if you're curious, it's a doozy.
I am curious.
It is a doozy.
We'll take a look. Right. And now for the cast's comments. Zerugel says, the psychology of a character I discuss would be maybe Uncle from Another World, or Anya from Spy Family. I love Uncle from Another World. That's a brilliant idea.
It is. It is a good one.
That's a really, really, really
I don't know about Anya. I mean, she's interesting, but I don't think she has too much psychological depth to her yet. She's too young.
Anyway, and then context. When Zerugel asked us for anime about documentaries, sometimes I like to ask really difficult questions just to mess with you guys a little. Actually, Cells at Work is a great example. Kudos, Zeno. I too am so glad that anime set at school. Anime set at school. Oh, have died down. Right, yeah. I'm with you. I hated school. Why would I want to watch other people there? There was
Schadenfreude.
Okay, whatever that was. But there is a brilliant anime if you haven't watched it.
Doesn't know what Schadenfreude is.
Shut up.
Philistine.
Shit, I can't remember what the fuck. I was going to recommend an anime, and now I can't because fucking. The
Ancient Magus Bride.
That's not. No. School's only the second season.
Kill Me Can't Communicate.
No.
Okay.
You probably haven't seen it, Nasuth.
Okay.
All right.
Toradora.
No. So Strong Michelle says the psychology for a character that should be included or talked about is Tanjiro from Demon Slayer or Goblin Slayer from that show that shares the same name. I don't know about Tanjiro. I feel Tanjiro is very one-dimensional.
He's easy to describe. Is what I'd say. He's clearly motivated and.
Goblin Slayer. I agree, though I kind of wish I knew more before we actually...
That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't
know enough about...
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of scenes that show a little bit about where he's coming from, but we haven't had anything that we could actually meaningfully sit back and armchair diagnose.
Okay, and then the last comment from Strong Michelle is, love the memes, guys. My favorite was the Bocce, the Rock, and the plus Dune one.
That was such a good one. When he said that, I had to actually go back and rewatch that one just because it's so funny.
So, and of course, we'll use this as a segue to do the memes. And if you want, go to twitter.com/Kanpai_cast or to the Discord, and we upload memes daily. I can't remember what memes are out today, but they're out, right?
And of course, all these memes will be in the description.
We're filming a little bit differently, and I now can't remember what my memes are, so this is going to be a surprise for me.
Yeah, I can't remember mine either.
Sweet. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. After all these years, wholesome anime memes, wholesome Yuri, and wholesome hentai. Finally, I have them all.
Oh dear fucking god!
Oh, wholesome hentai. Right. Enter password to log in. First try, second try. Third try.
It's so true. It is so sodding true. Oh god, yeah.
Anime MC exists. Every girl under the sun in said anime. You're the love of our life. Please let us join your harem.
Isekai, sure. Isekai, 100%. But yeah.
Binging anime until dawn. Decent sleep. Me.
Yeah.
The kid who beat Cancer versus Goku. This is a tricky one. Goku has been known for taking on all manner of creatures and threats, and he has a history of winning. However, a kid who has beaten cancer is also incredibly strong and resilient to not only survive a deadly illness, but persevere through hard, intensive treatments, especially as a child. I think the kid would have the stamina needed to beat Goku. Goku when he fought kid who beat cancer. Yeah.
It's the pink ground underneath that really tells that.
Yeah. And my last one. Any other anime memer? Bocce memers.
Yes! I like that one.
Correct.
I like that one.
Alright, so on to Thaliens first.
I need you to swear. Fuck, I mean, I could promise.
What the fuck is this? Okay.
No! Everything is lies. Everything is lies.
I don't get it.
It's if you translate cartoon into Japanese, it's animation, which is just cartoon.
Yeah.
So anime is cartoons.
Yeah, fair.
Oh my god, are you crying?
Oh dear.
I think what is this from?
Nagatoro-san?
Like,
Don't hurt
no,
me,
I
Miss
know
Nagatoro?
Nagatoro, but
oh, you mean this guy?
The guy's face.
Oh, is this
It's like the Good Doctor or something.
something like that? I've not watched the show, but It has
been
seen that.
memed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a surgeon.
Yeah, that's it.
These nuts. What are those? These? Deets nuts. Deets and Watson. Deets nuts. Those are nuts. Deets nuts are nuts. Deets nuts are meat nuts. Those are meat nuts. Meat nuts. They're Deets nuts. You get one of those? Go ahead. Grab a handful of Deets nuts. Get a good grip in there. Hey, Chris. How Deets nuts taste?
What the fuck?
Oh, Azumanga Daioh.
Okay.
This one, it just speaks for itself. It was actually mocap all along.
Yep.
Oh my god. Oh, pink guy.
眠いんだよね。収録早すぎてさ。あ、もうカメラ回ってる？
Oh my god!
I don't.
It's Code Geass.
Oh, okay. I don't get it.
It's fine. It's fine, Nasuth.
See those memes.
So me finding a good anime to watch. Fate Stay Night.
Did we skip one?
No?
No, that was your last one. Your last one
I
was
definitely
video.
put another one in there.
Don't think you did, because that was your sixth one.
That's 6.
Oh,
It's all 6.
okay. Never mind.
Right. So, me finding a good anime to watch. Fate Stay Night. And then it's like explodes into Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Field 1, Fate Prototype, Fate Zero, Fate
Heaven's
Grand
Field-
Order,
Heaven's
Fate
Field 2.
Apocrypha. Yeah, it just explodes into like so many other things. Right. Next. I can help you find your father, Tim. You never help me develop find my father, bitch. Third one.
Okay.
Yep.
What? I don't get this one either.
Well, it's the guy that like looks at the girl as
Yeah.
walks by, as like checking out another anime when you got the Gundam on
Okay, so it's just random generic anime girl. Not a specific.
And it's like, but there's a
Versus
Gundam.
mecha anime.
But there's a Gundam.
Yeah.
It's like I could
Okay.
but there's random okay, next. Millennials and Gen Z cost of living.
Yup.
Right, and then I got 2 videos.
Yup.
That's not right.
Oh, wait.
That's not
That's
right.
not right.
All right, here we go. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot. I was going to ask you to keep that. No, well, I probably
loop it.
wanted to get you to keep that looping, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah. So there's that
loud.
one. It
Oh.
was right.
Oh.
Go assemble, everyone. Please begin preparations to retreat. Yes, understood.
If you didn't get to read it, it says only 2-day protest.
That's great. That's great. Oh my god.
I love
Oh.
those are brilliant. Love them. Right, so that is it for
artists.
this week's episode. Next week, I'm not 100%.
I'm not sure if it's the season review or if we're doing something else.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure either. We'll work that out. I'm trying to scroll down on the screen and realize that's not going to happen. But yeah, we'll work it out. And yeah, so that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching / listening. And now it's time to bottoms up. My drink's empty. And Kanpai!
Bye.